Welcome into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Chris Yow, joined by Mo Patton, and we are live at Anderson Field House on the campus of Columbia Academy. I almost said Columbia State University. That would have been a really interesting one. When did Columbia State get a university? Anyway, Columbia Academy here in Columbia, and we're so glad to have you guys with us as we are getting ready for the weekend. What a weekend it's going to be with the big game. Can we call it the Super Bowl? I know you can't do it in any advertising, but just want to make sure like we don't get in trouble and sued by the NFL or something.
The NFL championship game.
It's the Super Bowl is this weekend. We're going to talk to Ben Arthur a little bit later in the show, get his thoughts on that game and much more. We'll also talk with Caleb Johnson of 92.9 The Game out of Atlanta, as there is a local connection. We told you NBA trades were getting crazy. They're trading for folks who played down the street.
Well, actually, there are two local connections that were involved in trade deadline deals yesterday. As you said, we're going to be talking to Caleb Johnson of 92.9 The Game about one of those, but another one involved another local high schooler, well, for a time, did not finish high school in the area.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so, yeah, should be fun.
It's going to be a good day. We've got a lot to get to, and we are going to do that here in just a few moments. We'll also talk about Texas and Oklahoma officially will be joining the SEC in 2024. On top of that, the Big 12 and the Pac-12 are scrambling.
They really are.
So we'll get into all of that and much, much more. Again, plenty to get to. Hall of Fame inductees have been named. So for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, lots going on. Lots going on. So we're going to do a couple of things here. We're going to give you yesterday's results and then the weekend schedule, and we'll do that on the rundown.
The Friday Rundown is brought to you by Chip Walters of Exit Realty Bob Lamb and Associates. The voice of the Blue Raiders also wants to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Contact Chip at 615-542-1915 or through his website at choosechip.net. Chip Walters, proud to support youth sports across Middle Tennessee.
Girls basketball action last night. Cheatham County down Fairview 63-33, and Cornersville was a 67-39 winner over Culleoka. Liberty Creek 53, Hume Fog 27, Republic 29, Kip Nashville 19. Loretto in a romp over top 10 ranked Richland 66-32 in the final game, regular season game at the Barn. Page down the Marshall County 68-24 was Merrill Hyde 36, Valor Collegiate 20, Perry County down Santa Fe 56-44, and Lawrence County was a 52-39 winner over Spring Hill. Stewart's Creek 69, Cane Ridge 25, Trousdale County 63, STEM Academy 9, and Clarksville Christian was a 59-42 winner over Waverly.
In boys basketball action on Thursday, Fairview defeated Cheatham County 61-55. It was Culleoka defeating Cornersville 51-49. Hume Fog with a 42-30 win over Liberty Creek. Back in the Barn for the last time in the regular season, the host Mustangs with a 50-34 win over number 3 in 1A Richland. Page defeated Marshall County 57-53. Valor Collegiate 60, Merrill Hyde 51, Santa Fe with a 75-66 win at Perry County. Spring Hill edges Lawrence County 57-55, Stewart's Creek 64, Cane Ridge 49, Trousdale County defeated STEM Academy 66-42, Waverly with a 51-31 win over Clarksville Christian, and on senior night, Zion Christian with an 81-46 win over Lighthouse Christian of Antioch.
Women's college basketball action last night. Lipscomb down Jacksonville 61-52, and Austin Peay was a 77-35 winner over North Florida. In overtime, Tennessee State falls to SEMO 90-86. Middle Tennessee State, big win over Western Kentucky 94-81. It was Vanderbilt 78, Arkansas 70, Trevecca 87-64 winners over Findlay. University of Cumberland's down Cumberland 80-53, and Georgetown an 88-46 winner over UT Southern.
Men's college basketball on Thursday night. Western Kentucky defeats Middle Tennessee State 93-89. It was Tennessee State 85, Southeast Missouri State 65. Did I say 89? It's 85-65 TSU. My bad. North Alabama 70, Austin Peay 57. Lipscomb with a 93-81 win over Central Arkansas. Findlay defeated Trevecca 72-66, and Cumberland with a 70-65 win over the University of the Cumberlands.
High school basketball doubleheaders tonight. These are all 6 p.m. starts with girls first, boys to follow. Riverdale at Blackman, Ravenwood at Brentwood, Centennial hosting Hillsboro, and Pleasant View Christians at Central Baptist. White House Heritage goes to Cheatham County, and Clarksville's at Clarksville Northeast. Independence comes to Columbia Central. Pope Prep is at Christ Presbyterian, and Ensworth hosting Lipscomb Academy. It was McGavock at Gallatin, Mount Pleasant's at Giles County, Glencliff at home against Hillwood. Eagleville goes to Gordonsville, while Joe Burns is at Greenbrier. Hendersonville hosts Station Camp, and Henry County at home against Dixon County. Martin Luther King goes to Hume Fogg Beach is at Hunters Lane. Franklin is at John Overton. Kenwood hosting Northwest, and Lead Academy at Kip Nashville.
Also, Lebanon hosts Oakland. Summertown goes to Lewis County. Liberty Creek is at Merrill Hyde. Montgomery Central hosts Portland. Mount Juliet hosts Green Hill. Summit goes to Nolensville. Fairview is at Page. West Creek goes to Rossview. Siegel hosts Rockvale. Spring Hill is at Springfield. You got to slow down and make sure you get those right. Maplewood goes to Stratford. Harpeth is at Sycamore. Murfreesboro Central plays at Valor Collegiate. Smith County is at Watertown. Westmoreland hosts Cannon County. East Robertson is at White House. East Nashville is at Whites Creek. And Cookville goes to Wilson Central.
Girls basketball only tonight. Harpeth Hall is at Brentwood Academy at 6 o'clock, and St. Cecilia is at Father Ryan at 6. In the District 3 tournament of Division II Class A at 4 o'clock, as we get off the air, Webb School will be taking on Columbia Academy right inside the gym that we are looking at currently. And at 7 p.m., it will be Providence Christian and Middle Tennessee Christian. In District 4, at Donaldson Christian Academy, Good Pasture takes on Nashville Christian at 4, and Clarksville Academy takes on Ezel Harding at 7. Boys only action tonight. NBA will be at Brentwood Academy following that girls game against Harpeth Hall. In the District 3 tournament of D2 Class A, Grace Franklin and Webb School will be at 5:30, and BGA will take on Columbia Academy at 8:30 inside the gym right here. In District 4, also at Donaldson Christian, Friendship Christian takes on Good Pasture at 5:30, and Davidson Academy gets Clarksville Academy at 8:30.
Saturday doubleheader action. Murfreesboro Central is at Cannon County. That's a 2 o'clock tip. At 2:30, Christ Presbyterian Academy is at Ensworth, and at 5, Richland is at East Robertson. Also at 6 o'clock, York Institute is at Oakland. Tournament action, District 3 of D2A. Consolation games, girls first, then boys, begin at 1 o'clock here at the Anderson Fieldhouse. Also at 1 o'clock up at DCA, the D2A District 4 consolations, girls and boys. At 4 o'clock, your girls championship in District 3 here at Anderson Fieldhouse, followed by the boys. And at 5 o'clock at DCA, you've got your District 4 girls and boys championships. College basketball doubleheader action on Saturday. Cumberland is at Georgetown. That's a 12 noon start. Also at noon, UT Southern is at the University of the Cumberlands. Tiffin is at Trevecca at 1 o'clock. And at 1:30, Tennessee Tech is at Tennessee State. That game can be seen on ESPN+. Junior college doubleheaders. 1 o'clock tomorrow, Columbia State is at Chattanooga State. And at 2 o'clock, Roane State is at Volunteer State.
Women's basketball tonight at the Curb. Evansville comes to Belmont. 6:30 tip. ESPN3 is where you can see it. Tomorrow, Jacksonville is at Austin Peay. It's a 1 o'clock tip on ESPN+. Also on ESPN+ at 5 o'clock is UAB at Middle Tennessee State. On Sunday, Vanderbilt goes to Thompson Bowling Arena to take on the Lady Vols. It's a 1 o'clock tip on SEC Network. Plus, actually, that just goes to show.
There you go.
Indiana State is at Belmont. That's a 2:00 tip on ESPN Plus. And men's action on Saturday. Illinois Chicago is at Belmont at 1:00 on ESPN3. Vanderbilt goes to Florida at 2:30 on SEC Network. Middle is down at UAB at Bartow Arena. That's a 3:00 tip. You can see it on ESPN Plus. Also on ESPN Plus, Austin Peay's at Central Arkansas at 3:30. 5:00 on the SEC Network, Missouri is at Tennessee, and at 7:15 on ESPN Plus, Lipscomb will be at North Alabama.
Professional sports this weekend. On Friday, the Timberwolves come to FedEx Forum to take on the Memphis Grizzlies. That's a 7:00 tip on Valley Sports South tonight. At 1:00 on Sunday, the Grizzlies are at, it's not the Garden, but they're playing the Celtics in Boston. Again, it's a 1:00 start on ABC.
It's the TD Garden now.
It's a TD Garden?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think so.
And on the ice, Saturday, 11:30 puck drop for the Preds at Philadelphia against the Flyers. That game can be seen on Valley Sports South as well. Oh, yeah, and there's a little football game Sunday. It's a 5:00 kickoff.
Is it a 5:00? Okay.
I'm sorry, 5:30 kickoff on Fox as the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles play in Glendale, Arizona for the NFL championship.
There you go.
And that is your rundown.
All right. We go to our top story for the day, Mo, as the Pro Football Hall of Fame has announced its Hall of Fame inductees for 2023, and there's a lot of defensive flavor in this one, as
you know what they say.
Well,
defense wins championships.
Right? It used to. We talked about that earlier this week too. But plenty of great players: DeMarcus Ware, Darrelle Revis, Rondé Barber, Chuck Howley, and Zach Thomas, along with Joe Thomas, no relation. But yeah, great class of athletes.
Also, Joe Klecko and Don Coryell, Ken Riley. So it's quite the class that they've got going in. And I guess that induction will take place August 5th in Canton. So,
yeah, I was curious about Zach Thomas. I didn't know if he was going to get in. I thought he had a great career, but I didn't know if it was Hall of Fame worthy. But obviously, that era when the game was really changing, he was still a big part of a, not a great team in the Dolphins very often,
right?
But he was certainly the leader of that team.
Yeah, and like you said, the game was starting to kind of change a little bit there, but he was still an every down type of linebacker, the classic sideline to sideline type guy, very impactful. And so, yeah, it's good to see him go in. This was his 10th year of eligibility.
Wow.
Yeah, so to see somebody go in after being up for it that many times. He was a finalist 4 different times. Little undersized, 5'11", 235, but I think he certainly had the respect of the guys that he played against. The person that I was really kind of intrigued to hear was Joe Klecko. His heyday was his 11 seasons with the New York Jets from 77 to 87, finished up with a year with Indianapolis in 88. He's been eligible for 30 years.
30 years. He's in the veterans class basically. Okay. So they have 2 different classes. Okay. He was elected in that class, and I think well deserved. I mean, looking at, he's only one of only 5 Jets to have their number retired, and is the one of only 2 people to be selected to the Pro Bowl at 3 different positions. That's pretty solid.
In tackle and nose, pretty versatile.
I used to play guard, tackling in all at the same time.
Guard in and tackle.
Yeah, exactly. Sit at the end of the bench, guard the water bottle, tackle anybody comes near.
Come close to it. That's it. That's it. But yeah, he was part of that defensive front that the Jets had back in the early 80s, the New York Sack Exchange. And 20 and a half sacks in 1981. I mean, that's a pretty big number. That's a pretty big number now. I mean, can you imagine then?
Right.
So,
because, I mean, again, the game wasn't as much drop back passing, other than, I guess, the Dolphins were doing a lot of it.
Yeah.
Maybe they just sacked Marino a bunch.
A lot. Yeah.
Maybe that's how they got that. They got those numbers. I thought Don Coryell, obviously not a name that a lot of people will remember because he coached 14 years, but during his college coaching career, 2 of his assistants were Joe Gibbs and John Madden. That's a pretty good tree right there.
That's not a bad tree. That's not a bad tree at all. Absolutely.
He could recognize talent on the coaching staff, huh?
Won 100+ games, both collegiately and professionally, the latter with the Cardinals and the Chargers. And, as you talk about, you were just mentioning that it wasn't as much of a drop back game then. Right. He was kind of where that started to turn a little bit. So, yeah. It's interesting. You've got 2 former Jets going in because in addition to Joe Klecko, you've also got Darrell Revis.
That's right.
He of Revis Island.
29 picks, 139 pass breakups, and was also a member of that Super Bowl 49 team with the Patriots. He and Joe Thomas are the first balloters. And honestly, I think that Joe Thomas specifically, I mean, the guy played his entire career for the Cleveland Browns on purpose, and he should be rewarded.
Anybody that plays their entire career for the Cleveland Browns on purpose should get something out of it. Yeah, yeah. Kudos also to Ken Riley.
Yeah.
The longtime Cincinnati Bengals cornerback from 69 to 83. Florida A&M product.
Mr. Bingle.
I remember him growing up. He led the AFC in interceptions in 3 different years after converting from quarterback at Florida A&M. So
tied for 5th all time with Charles Woodson. That's pretty good company.
That's not bad. That's pretty solid. 65 career picks.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one. It's more than Rondé Barber had. Rondé Barber had 47, but 8 of those he took for touchdowns. He is the only person in the NFL history with 45 picks and 25 sacks. He leads the NFL in sacks by a cornerback. That's pretty impressive too.
That is. That's solid.
Obviously, big part of that Super Bowl 37 win for Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And spent his entire career there with the Bucks. Now, I haven't said much about DeMarcus Ware because, well, Troy State and Troy State, but anyway, congrats to DeMarcus Ware. Great player. And was just a lot of fun to watch unless he was lined up against your team. So congrats to him. All right, that's going to do it for our top story. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, Caleb Johnson of 92.9 The Game in Atlanta will join us, talk a little bit about the Hawks and NBA trade deadlines and Garrison Matthews specifically. So stick around here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. We'll be right back after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com. Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow, Mo Patton, speaking of Hall of Famers, he's in a couple, at least, maybe more soon. Not the CA Hall of Fame, though, which is what we're looking at here, tucked away in the corner.
Literally. It's the Hall
It is a hall.
of Fame.
It is, in fact, a hall. And no, and if you don't know where it's at,
Hashtag IYKYK.
That's right.
If you know, you know.
And unless you know to come back here and look for it, just we're letting you in on the secret. Is what we're doing.
Come to the elevator.
There's no sign for
Can't
that either.
miss it.
There's no sign for the elevator either.
It's on a need to know basis.
It must be. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us here on this Friday edition, as we are live on campus at Columbia Academy ahead of the District 3 Division 2 tournament here coming up beginning at 4:00 with 4 games. Last one scheduled to start at 8:30. We'll see what happens. A lot of basketball to be played today.
I might have to find a place to kind of take a nap between the 4:00 CA game and the 8:30 CA game.
Maybe the elevator, maybe the hall.
Maybe here in the hall. Yeah, absolutely. Exactly.
Oh, man. Well, we're going to talk a little NBA now, as we have joining us from the ATL. It is Caleb Johnson of 92.9 The Game out of Atlanta. Caleb, what's up, man?
How's it going, guys?
Going well, man. Appreciate you taking some time with us, Caleb. West Durham was nice enough to put me in touch with you yesterday, or put you in touch with me, but thank you. We were hoping to, pick your brain a little bit on a local kid, Garrison Matthews, who the Hawks picked up at the deadline yesterday from the Houston Rockets, and just, try to get some feel from you on what you think prompted the Hawks to bring him in, and, how he fits as the Hawks try to make their way toward a postseason berth out of the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, well, so I want to do a couple of different things. I want to talk about like the trade as a whole, as I would say, just simply from the fact of, I got to be honest with you, not everyone was super kind to the Atlanta Hawks about this trade going down, simply for the fact of there's been much discussion of the Atlanta Hawks are trying to stay under the luxury tax. They want to be in the mix and compete and get in the playoffs and that sort of thing, but they want to stay under that luxury tax until they reach a point where they think they're truly contending for a championship, which it seems pretty obvious that they're not doing just quite yet. And so with them being so close to that threshold, as they had been around like $1.8 million away, something of that nature. They wanted to be active in the trade deadline, make some moves, and improve this roster, but they were pretty limited in what they could do because of that tax threshold being so close. So I was one who was like, hey, I don't think the Hawks are going to make any moves at all. I think it's just going to be too tough for them to really be able to do anything. And yet I was proven wrong because you hear about earlier in the day that the Hawks are going to be involved in what was originally thought to be a 3-team trade that got them Sadiq Bey in return. And then we later found out that was a 4-team trade. Well, then we learn about this trade that involves the Houston Rockets, where Justin Holiday and Frank Kaminsky are going to Houston in exchange for Bruno Fernando, who had previously been in Atlanta, and the guy that you guys want to spend some time on, Garrison Matthews. I had to do my research. I had to look into Garrison. His name was somewhat familiar, but as Shaq had said not too long ago on TNT, I'm not familiar with your game yet. So doing some research on Garrison. I'm excited now at the kind of guy that the Hawks are going to bring in, simply from the fact of when I was at the Hawks game last night covering them facing the Phoenix Suns, and I asked some people, I was like, hey, what do you know about Garrison? And it almost every single person was, oh man, that kid's scrappy. You know, that he loves to get in there, he loves to mix it up with guys. And you know, he is kind of known, especially if you Google his name right now, a scuffle, a kerfluffle, you might say, that he had with Malik Monk a few weeks ago. Like, that's kind of the top thing that pops up with Garrison Matthews. And it's honestly, that's kind of something that the Hawks have been missing, is that guy who is going to stand up for his teammates, is going to get in there, and they can provide obviously some on the court things as well. As Landry Fields, I know, called him a guy who, you know, is going to bring intensity, a guy who's got shooting, flexibility in the positions that he can play. And then Nate McMillan talking about him was just like, yeah, this is a guy who can spread the floor. So it feels like there's a lot of positive things coming in, but I just keep getting hung up on this fact of like, oh, okay, like this guy is scrappy. This guy likes to you know, he can fight if he needs to. He can be that guy, which kind of also surprises me, because I was like, wait, isn't this is a Lipscomb guy, right? You know, cool, scholarly young man.
Hey, don't let the smooth taste fool you there, Caleb. I mean,
Yeah.
Before he got to Lipscomb, he was a two-sport guy at Franklin, and the other sport was football. So
Okay.
he ain't scared, you know?
Yeah, well, the thing that came to my mind was that old Steve Harvey bit where he was like, "I'm not that good at Christian yet." I was like, "Yeah, I feel like that's probably Garrison Matthews." Is, you know, he got a little bit at his time that he spent at Lipscomb, but he's really making his name around the NBA for a guy who doesn't mind mixing up, doesn't mind trash talking, doesn't mind being physical, and that's honestly that's going to be a huge positive to bring to the Atlanta Hawks.
Well, another Steve Harvey line you might apply to Garrison is, "Don't let this suit fool you."
So true.
So, yeah, Caleb Johnson with 92.9 the game out of Atlanta joining us here on Main Street Sports today. He is a guy, Caleb, who is known for the three shot as well. He can knock it down from behind the arc. You know, I don't know where exactly he fits into the Hawks rotation right now, but you know, from an offensive standpoint, do you feel like there's an opportunity for him to contribute there? I mean, this is a guy that averaged 10 for Houston last year. It's been about half that this year with the Rockets. But will there be shots for him, or is that even what they're looking for out of him?
I think they're looking to find that out. Now, do the Hawks currently kind of have their rotation set for the most part? Yeah. But I believe there's going to be those opportunities. Guys get into foul trouble, you know, especially this Atlanta Hawks team. It feels like, for whatever reason, that the officials don't exactly love them. Might be because, you know, they're superstars known to share a few words with officials on a regular basis. And so they really don't get cut too many breaks, which is going to give a guy, you know, and you spoke about the 3-point shooting. Like, that's something that this Atlanta Hawks team had kind of been known for in the past, especially Trae Young, you know, a guy who is going to consistently shoot the three ball. Trae's gotten away from it. This team has gotten away from it. And it's really reached the point of like, wow, they just need somebody. They need something. And so will we see at times Nate McMillan in certain situations give a guy like Garrison a run to see if he can bring some offense in there? Yeah, absolutely. Now, you know, you spoke about his minutes that he's got with Houston. It's not going to be a ton. I know there's another guy on this roster right now for the Atlanta Hawks, V. Cresci, who was kind of brought in for a similar type of deal. But when he's been given his time, it's mostly been in garbage time. And there really haven't been those big moments for him to truly shine. There is another aspect of this, and that is the Atlanta Hawks have now shifted their mindset to try to do more developing. I think Landry Fields, the general manager, and now Kyle Korver, who's been brought in as the assistant GM, they're looking to develop talent, and that truly comes from getting these guys game experience anywhere they can get it. Garrison is he's no stranger to the G League. And I think that's something too, that with the College Park Skyhawks being, right down the street by the airport, he might get an opportunity to stay fresh and get some minutes over there with the College Park Skyhawks. I think they've got about like 15 games left in their schedule this season. But just to get some runs in, because the Hawks want to figure out what they've got with all of these guys that they acquired at the trade deadline, and getting to see them actually play, I think will help in that development process.
Talking with Caleb Johnson of 92.9 The Game. And Caleb, one of the things that I thought was interesting about this entire trade season was, like you said, the Hawks kind of went from one trade to another trade, and things kind of shifted really, really quickly. Was like here in Tennessee with Memphis, they kind of threw the entire possibilities, everything they could at the Nets to get Kevin Durant, and it wasn't enough. Is that one of the things that kind of kept Atlanta from making a bigger splash? Was they just didn't have enough capital on the to give back?
So with Kevin, I would say that was one issue where, just being willing to give up the capital is just, I feel for the Hawks is just too steep a price right now. This is a team who just last offseason gave up 3 first-round picks for DeJounte Murray. And so that's something that they wanted to be very careful of. And you also have to think too, like out of the deals that they ended up making, they gave up 7 second-round picks in just 2 different deals that they made. So they wasn't like they gave up a lot of draft capital. I think what we obviously saw Phoenix give up for Kevin Durant was just insanely high. There was also some talks too of maybe Phoenix, before the Kevin Durant trade was going down, maybe they were having some discussions with the Hawks over John Collins. The only thing I would say to that is I've had some communication with people who are in the know when it comes to general managers in the NBA, and they were pretty clear on no one really wanted to take on John Collins the rest of his contract. He's got about $75 million worth over the next 3 years. And so I think it's one of those, the Hawks, look, they wanted to give off the appearance for sure that we're here, we're wheeling and dealing, we're trying to make something happen. We really want to improve this team. But at their core, it was like, well, we have very strict values on what we see from our players. And if we can't get something that's going to keep up with that value we see, then we're not going to make the deal. Because the Hawks do have the luxury, because they're in a situation where no one really is expecting them to compete for a championship. They just want to be a playoff team and be competitive. Is the luxury they do have is kicking the can down the road and being like, well, we'll figure this thing out in the off season and head towards a stronger season next year. And of course, that's every team's favorite thing, right? Every fan base loves it when their team goes, yeah, we're gonna try again next year. But that's where the Hawks are. And so, you saw them attempting to be competitive, but at the same time, I really think that most of their dealings were going to end up being just something like they dealt more in the small money stuff, the development side of thing, and like I said when I started, in the cost savings moves, because they traded away 2 players, and Justin Holiday and Frank Kaminsky, who between the 2 of them make $8 million. They got in return what I believe to be an upgrade in Sadiq Bey, and then depth pieces in Bruno Fernando and Garrison Matthews. And by getting those 3 players in return, they're only spending like $7.6 million. So they're literally saving money, and I believe upgrading the team, which you got to love, right?
Caleb Johnson of 92.9 The Game out of Atlanta joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Caleb, you mentioned Sadiq Bey, and he was part of a 4-team deal that saw Detroit get former Nashville native, I guess, played a little high school ball here in Nashville before transferring to Memphis. But James Wiseman went to the Pistons in that deal from Golden State. What is your feel for? And we may be getting way out of your depth right now,
Oh no, you
but Golden State and Wiseman. I mean, when they drafted him, they had really high hopes for him. He's been injured a little bit. Do you just think this was Chris hates the phrase, but a change of scenery type situation for Wiseman?
I believe so. I think this is a situation where we're so often when it comes to trades we're grading them and we're trying to figure out who won and who lost. And this was a situation where you get so many teams involved. You get 4 different teams involved, and somebody kind of gets or everybody I would say kind of gets something that they wanted out of this. James Wiseman was not working in Golden State. And the thing that I had learned earlier in the week about when it came to James Wiseman and his contract and the cap hit that he was going to take, and how it affects the luxury tax and everything like that. It was simple as like if Golden State moved on from James Wiseman, I think they saved $60 million over the course of a couple of seasons. So it really felt like a no-brainer for them of, okay, a guy who's not really helping us out, and then saving money, So in Detroit's case, it was also a situation where they looked at Sadiq Bey and they went, I don't know if this is really a guy that we want to pay, that we see with us long term. And so let's find somebody who's maybe interested in that, giving him that change of scenery and helping out their team. And so then they take on a new project in James Wiseman, where it's like, okay, this guy, like the guy that was drafted, number 2, right? Or was it 3? I can't remember. But this is a guy who is got that upside, and we're not giving up a whole lot. If you're Detroit, you're letting Sadiq Bey kind of walk, but you're also not having to pay him. And then you're getting into, all right, this project kind of James Wiseman, who's been essentially thrown away by Golden State. We're going to see if we can get something out of him. Is it going to work out for them? I have no idea, but I know I get the thought process. I get the understanding of why are we going to get into a deal like this. And then Portland, I think Portland just ended up getting some picks out of all of this, and they I think they had Kevin Knox, a former Atlanta Hawk, involved in this process as well. So, just a little bit. Everybody kind of gets a little bit, and doesn't feel like they are stuck on a contract that they don't want to be in anymore.
Which can be as valuable as anything else. Let's be honest.
Just moving on.
Just move on from that contract. Yep. It is what it is. And, there's a couple of guys here with the Titans that we need to move on from contract wise. So, and hey, and the good thing is for you guys can sign them next year because everybody else we let go, you guys sign. So
well, that's
go Titans South.
Oh, trust me, I've got plenty of people who are wondering if Ryan Tannehill is going to be in a Falcons uniform. That really, as I do radio shows here in Atlanta on 92 on the Game, that's one of those things that keeps coming up is like, who's going to be that veteran quarterback to join Desmond Ridder? And Ryan Tannehill is honestly on the top of that list for a lot of fans here. So who knows? We might see that.
He and Arthur Smith had a heck of a year.
Yeah.
And you've got a running back who is different but pretty darn good in Cordero Patterson. So hey, look, if you guys want him, we wouldn't mind. I don't know who we're going to play. Well, I don't know who we're going to sign, but get out of that contract is really all we're trying to do.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing too. See, that's me. I'm on the when it comes to the Falcons, like stay out of the bringing in another big contract again, because the Falcons are quite honestly, they're the team that they're like that person who had a bunch of credit card debt and they paid it all off, And now it's like, all right, are you going to go load it back up with some furniture or a car or something else? You're gonna go put a bunch of money back on it? No. Like enjoy the savings that you've got right now, and be smart about how you add pieces back to it. But who knows? They could go out and add a guy like Tannehill.
Financial advisor Caleb Johnson joining us here on Main Street Sports today. Hey, Caleb, man, we appreciate your time and hope to reach back out to you at some point. Do you do any Brave stuff?
I do. I am kind of our backup reporter when it comes to the Atlanta Braves. Of course, Grant McCauley does all of the main coverage for us at the station. But they send me to a few games a week typically during that season.
Well, there we go. We will be reaching out.
There you go. Nashville is Braves country, Caleb. We appreciate it.
It stretches all over the place.
No kidding. And we thank you so much for taking time with us today, man, and very insightful, and looking forward to seeing what Garrison Matthews is able to put together in Atlanta.
Just keep Malik Monk away from him.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. Have a good one, man.
You too.
All right, guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC. What are the Big 12 and Pac-12 going to do? We'll talk about that as well right here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stick around.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Mid-Tennessee Bone & Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. I'm Chris Yow, joined by Mo Patton, and we are here live on campus at Columbia Academy, just ahead of the D2 Class A District 3 semifinals, both girls and boys, starting at 4 o'clock, ending around midnight. Okay, maybe it won't be midnight. We're hoping. We'll cross our fingers.
Yes, do, because I've got wrestling at 9 in the morning in Franklin. So.
Mo said if it ends at midnight, I'm sleeping at your house. Not driving back. So
I got to go back at some point. So
yep, there's no doubt.
Yeah, you know, over the break, I had not seen, I was not necessarily familiar with the Matthews Monk dust up. Google that, y'all, because that's pretty good stuff. And as Caleb was saying, Gary Bird, as they call him, wasn't in the mood to take any mess from Malik Monk on that situation. It's kind of funny.
So speaking of Gary Bird, you know, I made the comment about Larry not getting his just due in the GOAT conversation. And my phone has been blowing up with videos of like former players talking about, you know, playing against Bird. And you go into the comments and it's like, Bird never gets talked about and he should, and this, that, and that. I'm like, my phone is listening and I'm appreciative because I'm not alone.
There you go. But
when
you've got that many people, he's saying he's not getting talked about, then Isn't he getting talked about?
Well, I guess just not among the people that I'm paying attention to. Maybe I just need better friends.
Smarter friends. Yeah.
Need folks that are giving Bird his due, man. Come on. Well, college football news yesterday. It's official. Texas and Oklahoma coming.
This kind of came down out of nowhere too.
Wasn't
it like 7, 8 o'clock last night?
Yeah, that's the thing is it didn't really happen in the middle of the day. It was very late last night.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about it. They've been trying to get something worked out. Apparently they got something worked out. I don't know the exact details. I'm not even sure that they're available. Gosh,
is it a gnat?
Yes.
Just kill it.
Got it.
There.
That was frustrating. Well, all I know is Texas and Oklahoma will be in the SEC in 24.
Well, and the number I heard was $100 million.
And I think that was already established that Texas and Oklahoma were going to pay $100 million to the Big 12. The issue was Fox and ESPN, and I don't know what their deal consisted of.
Okay.
I
wonder if that's an increase. Was it $100 million whenever they left, or?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
No, the 25. If they had waited to 25, that number was going to be significantly lower.
Mm-hmm.
But ESPN wants them bad, and they should.
Oh yeah,
because G. Allen Taylor, who we've had on the show a couple of times talking about Florida, he put out a pitch for the 3-6 format,
right?
And I thought this was really interesting because when you look at it and you say, boy, Tennessee's got to play Alabama, Georgia, and Florida every year. That's crazy. Alabama plays Auburn, Tennessee, and LSU, Georgia, Florida, Auburn, and Tennessee. Auburn having to play Georgia, Florida, Alabama. Are you kidding me? But his rationale is that it maintains primary and secondary rivalries while also giving you the best inventory of marquee games, and the elite programs play tougher schedules, and the bottom half has a better chance at bowl eligibility. This makes sense.
Now, the only thing is, and we've talked about this with the TSSAA, or the TSSAA talks about it. You can't necessarily classify or align based on perceived competitive levels. These are going to change. Florida's not always going to be Florida.
Based on what, though?
Well,
and I think that's the point here is, and I guess it could change. Nobody's saying that these
are permanent.
Forever.
Forever?
No,
forever.
Not forever, ever. And so I like it because, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, and Vanderbilt, that gives
it kind of feels like there is a tough team, a middle of the road team, and a not so good team necessarily in most cases.
For most of the mids. Now, again, Alabama, LSU, Florida, Tennessee, Auburn, and Georgia, they're all playing each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's tough. But what I think his idea behind this is that TV is going to matter.
Mm-hmm.
But losing, if Tennessee goes 2-1 in that series, that's not going to kill them in the college football playoff discussion with 12 teams. But it also gives you the ability for Ole Miss to maybe go 8-1 in the SEC, and maybe they're in the college football playoff as an at-large or something.
I wonder how Texas and Texas A&M feel about, and they had to know that they were going to have to play each other, but still seeing it and obviously this isn't final. This is just Alan Taylor's pitch, but you could see something very similar to this, and you got to feel like Texas and Texas A&M are going to play.
Oh, absolutely. The 3-6 model, the one thing that they love about the 3-6 model is that I think every 4 years
you play
everybody at home. So I think that's huge.
But Texas and A&M should play each other every year.
Every
shouldn't
year. There's no reason for them not to. And I don't think they necessarily didn't want to start with. I mean, it was just the fact that part of the rivalry and Texas A&M leaving, Texas was kind of angry about it, and A&M was like, if I ain't got to play you, I'm probably not going to play you, just because I've got other games. I've got to play against Alabama every year, LSU every year. You know, it's pretty tough in the SEC West. And so adding that Texas, it's not like, and I'm not trying to disrespect you, although it's going to sound disrespectful. It's not Georgia Tech. You know what I mean? It's not like Georgia's getting, and Georgia Tech. It's not.
All right.
It's a different level. So I get it. I love this though. I think that model and that idea behind it really, really works. And if another team becomes a perennial powerhouse, then maybe things switch up where, say when Nick Saban retires and Alabama maybe isn't Alabama for a while, maybe Ole Miss becomes that and they get the tougher schedule. Who knows? I kind of like it.
It's an interesting concept. Yeah. And it's something that you could work with, like you said.
Now, where did the Pac-12 and Big 12 go? Because you're telling me that the Big 12 is now courting the desert?
The Big 12 is looking at the four corner schools: Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah.
Now, Colorado done left once.
Well, unlike the Sun Belt, apparently the Big 12 is more for the good of the Big 12.
Well, there's a difference between Colorado then
and Middle Tennessee.
Well, no, there's a difference between Colorado then and Colorado now. The fact is they've got a bigger brand coming. Let's be honest.
You think Coach Prime makes that big a difference?
I think he brings the brand. He makes that big of a difference in the brand. And people are going to want to watch Prime. They're going to want to watch Colorado on television because of Deion Sanders.
One way or the other.
Whether he's successful or unsuccessful, they're going to want to watch it.
Yeah.
And that matters more than anything. Eyeballs. Yeah, we're definitely going to get muted on Facebook for this. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Pac-12, SMU and San Diego State.
Like I said, does Brady Hoke want to be in the Pac-12? Not a chance. Not a chance. Yeah. But San Diego State makes too much sense, right?
Right. Yeah. And I think both those conferences are a little bit desperate at this point. Maybe even a lot desperate.
I would agree. When I looked at the idea of SMU, I thought it doesn't make a lot of sense. And even with the Dallas market, it doesn't make sense. But
a Pac-12 that doesn't have USC and UCLA doesn't make a whole lot of sense either, or a Big Ten that does. So I think we're beyond the point of making sense almost.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, we knew that geography wasn't going to matter in the long run.
Yeah.
I mean, geography hasn't mattered in a long time at this point. And
it's mattering less and less
every day,
all the time. I mean, look at it if you've not already. But once USC and UCLA join the Big Ten, you're literally coast to coast. You've got Maryland and Rutgers. Rutgers.
Yeah.
Rutgers. Yeah. Maryland and Rutgers over here. You've got USC and UCLA over here.
And see, the first conference that really did away with geography was the Big 12 when they went and got West Virginia. Now it makes a little more sense with Cincinnati.
Yeah.
But UCF is on an island. So
UCF and Tulane.
Well, you still got to go across the Gulf to get there.
It's like, does anybody have a map?
No.
In any of these conference offices? Are you just
the TSSAA could have helped them out. They could have put dots on a map. It would have helped. Tell me wrong.
Yeah. Clearly none of these conferences has a Bradley Lambert.
they need some push pins.
Yeah.
You know what happened? They thought that UCF was just in the corner of the map, and that was the pin holding the map down. That's what it was.
Yeah. No, this is actually where it is, y'all. Goodness.
It's Central Florida. Well, where is that? Well, it's in the middle of Florida.
It's in
the central part of Florida. It's not hard, guys.
Yes.
It's literally in the name.
Yeah, say it like it sounds. Central Florida. Yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, the Pac-12 is in trouble with their TV deal at this point. Here's the thing. Washington, Oregon, Utah, Oregon State to a degree, they're not bad.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Colorado for now, which could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
They have good football programs. They have really good basketball programs.
Now, let me ask you, do you feel like at this point everybody is under the gun to make everything happen by 24?
Yes. They have to.
Because that's when the playoffs are going to go to 12.
Yep.
That's when Texas and Oklahoma are coming to the SEC. Everybody else wants to be settled by then in their new worlds, right? Whatever they are.
Yep, 100%. That's the biggest issue right now. Is they've got to figure out and they have a year and a half.
Yeah, the clock
basically.
is ticking.
There's exactly
they don't even
18
have
months.
that.
18 months before you kick off. August.
Yeah.
18 months before you kick off. It's got to be done. You've got to get this done before the summer.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, we've got to deal with March Madness, conference tournaments, baseball, softball, all the spring sports,
transfer portal,
NIL. I mean, all the things that you got to deal with as an athletics director. Think about that. You're trying to, the Pac-12 commissioner, it's not like he ain't got nothing else to do.
Right.
So they're gonna really struggle to get this done.
Those guys are going to be earning their money here over the next bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a break. We'll get Ben Arthur here in just a moment to talk a little Super Bowl. But we will get to him in just a minute, as well as later on coming up in the show, the weird prop bets that you hear about all the time. We're gonna pick them.
Oh God,
we're gonna pick them. So, what color Gatorade? We'll let you know. What's the coin flip gonna be? What's the over under on the national anthem? We'll get to that and much, much more. Ben Arthur right after this on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Y'all stick around.
Thank you. It's better.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Hockey night in Music City just hits different. It's one big honky-tonk party. It's the sea of gold in the crowd. The goals, the saves, the celebrations. It's an experience like no other. Don't miss a minute of the action this season. Visit NashvillePredators.com/tickets to get your seats today. That's NashvillePredators.com/tickets. And we'll see you at Bridgestone Arena.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow alongside Mo Patton here on this Friday weekend preview edition of the show. Glad to have you guys with us ahead of this big weekend we have in high school sports, in college sports, in pro sports, because, well, the Super Bowl is this weekend, so we might as well talk about it. And we will do that now with a guy who knows a little more about it than we do, and that is
maybe even a lot more.
Yeah,
about it.
He's seen Patrick Mahomes live and in person this year, so we'll talk to him about that. Ben Arthur of Fox Sports joining us now. Ben, welcome in. What's up?
Hey guys, what's up? How you doing?
Doing well, Ben. Appreciate you taking some time with us on a Friday afternoon. As Chris said, you have seen Patrick Mahomes up close and personal. You were at that Jacksonville game when he actually injured the ankle. First off, what is the word on that at this point? Obviously, he's not 100%, but I guess he's better than he was in the AFC Championship game. So,
yeah. The word has been that he's continued to steadily improve. As you said, no one really expects him to be 100%. I'm sure he doesn't expect to be 100%. He is going to be somewhat limited, but as we all know, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback, regardless of the greatness of Patrick Mahomes is that even without maybe the scrambling component of his game, the ability to get outside the pocket and have that really unique improv, he's still an elite quarterback if he's constrained to just the pocket. Like, there are numerous stats that shows he's a top 2 quarterback inside the pocket. And I actually believe he led the NFL in touchdowns from inside the pocket. So Mahomes is going to be limited, but I expect him to still play well. I think we saw him sort of will the Chiefs past the Bengals in the AFC Championship game. I think it's going to take another type of performance like that to beat this juggernaut Eagles team. So I expect him to maybe have to move a little bit better, right? I mean, it has been 2 weeks since that AFC title game, but yeah, I don't think anyone expects him to be 100%.
were you surprised, Ben, that he was as effective as he was against Cincinnati, given the ankle situation?
No, I really wasn't. I mean, as I said, he's just such an incredible player. I mean, he's going to go down as one of the best of all time. He's a surgeon inside the pocket. Even if he isn't able to move as well, we know how accurate, how precise, how efficient he can be inside the pocket. And then I think he got some really great performances from the players around him too. Like we can't overlook that. I think the work of their defense really helped him out a lot, particularly Chris Jones and that pass rush, totally taking advantage of a beat up Bengals O-line and getting to Joe Burrow, sagging him 5 times, including 4 times in the first half, pressuring him a bunch of other times. And then just on the offensive side of the ball, his offensive line really stepping up, knowing that his ankle was kind of messed up. I mean, they did a really good job protecting him. His receivers deliver, like Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So yeah, I expect him to still be pretty effective in this game Sunday.
A 75-80% Patrick Mahomes is still as good as most folks 100%, but this is the Super Bowl, and this Eagles defense is pretty darn good, and he will match up against Jalen Hurts, who has been statistically the best quarterback in the league all year long. Is this a game that 75, 80% Patrick Mahomes can lead his team to a win in?
I think so. Look, it's going to be a very tall task. I mean, this is one of the best defenses I've seen in my lifetime. I mean, this is as complete of a pass defense as you'll ever see. 70 sacks, which they had 70 sacks. That's the third most ever. They have 4 guys who had 11 plus sacks. They have the best secondary in the NFL. That they led the league in passing yards allowed. James Bradbury, Darius Slay, just a lot of great talent. So I mean, this is going to be a gargantuan task for Patrick Mahomes. This is going to take a lot of the guys around him to help him out. But I believe so strongly, honestly, in Patrick Mahomes' greatness that he can sort of will the Chiefs in this game. He put up bonkers numbers this year. You kind of mentioned Jalen Hurts, Chris, but Patrick Mahomes he led the league in passing yards. He led the league in passing. He just won his second MVP in 6 seasons. And I think for Patrick, I mean, this is actually kind of a legacy defining game. I mean, he's 1-1 in the Super Bowl. I think if he goes 1-3 in the Super Bowl, that maybe kind of bumps him down in sort of like that GOAT talk that people are already, I feel like, starting to bring up with Patrick Mahomes. And so as much of a juggernaut as I think this Eagles team is, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to cook up something special. Will it be enough to give Kansas City a victory? I'm not sure. But I expect the Chiefs to make this, a really interesting game.
There are people that are going to not want you to use the term cook with Patrick Mahomes, given how some other quarterbacks have or have not cooked this past season. But Ben Arthur with Fox Sports joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. A lot of talk about Patrick Mahomes for obvious reasons, rightfully so. As Chris mentioned, Jalen Hurts has probably had the best season of any quarterback in the NFL this year. His first go at this environment, this game, this scenario, and I saw something somewhere. Somebody was asking if his experience in the college national championship game puts him in a better space for this game. I don't know that they're comparable. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sure that that's really kind of a valid argument to bring in. I mean, obviously, when you've had championship experience in college football, elite college football, that's no joke, obviously, and you certainly have respect for those who've played at that level and have won at that level. But to compare like the national championship to the Super Bowl, and just say, oh, because he did well or won at this stage, that equips him for the Super Bowl stage, I don't think that's really a valid thing to bring to the table, especially when you look at the Chiefs, who are going to be in I think it's their 3rd Super Bowl in 4 seasons. And Jalen Hurts has never been in a Super Bowl. He's never played in a game of this magnitude at the NFL level, where the stakes are the highest that they can be in the sport, period. Like, no questions asked. So sure, maybe it helps. But this is a different caliber of stage, a different caliber of opponent. This is not college Jalen Hurts. I mean, he's a completely different player, a different leader. And so I'm not sure that really has merit in this discussion, although, it certainly can't hurt when you have that kind of experience at this level in the Super Bowl.
Ben Arthur of FoxSports.com joining us here as he covers the AFC South for Fox Sports, but certainly watching plenty enough football to talk about this at an intelligent level. And we appreciate you taking some time with us today, Ben, as we look at the Super Bowl as a whole. The best offensive line, obviously, a lot of folks feel like it's Philadelphia. They've got a great defensive line. I'm a firm believer of the game is won in the trenches. Mm-hmm. Is Philadelphia's biggest asset those two position groups?
The defensive line, definitely. The Chiefs' offensive line is actually, I would say, they're better than Philly's offensive line, and I think the numbers back that up. The Chiefs' offensive line was number 1 in the league by a wide margin in pass block win rate, which is one of those ESPN advanced analytics that, shows how well players can sustain blocks. I think the 2.5 second is kind of the threshold, and the Chiefs led the league in that category. And so it's going to be that, right? That Chiefs O-line against the Eagles defensive line. Who has the advantage there? It's tough to say. I mean, again, kind of as I was saying earlier, the Eagles have 4 guys who've had more than at least 11 sacks this season. And so it's going to be the biggest challenge the Chiefs O-line has had by far. That's going to be a fascinating battle. I don't think the Chiefs O-line really has any weaknesses. And then on the flip side, you look at the Eagles O-line against the Chiefs D-line. In that case, I would maybe give the Eagles O-line a bit of an advantage. But when you have Chris Jones on the other side, who has 17 and a half sacks, if you include the playoffs, and being a defensive tackle who is double teamed at a higher rate than any defender in the NFL, and you're already playing inside, you don't have as much space to work with when you're rushing the passer, and the fact that he did still have those numbers. And then he has a guy alongside him in Frank Clark, who is, I think, top 3 or top 5 all time in postseason sacks. They have a really good rookie as well, and George Karlaftis III. And so that's going to be another tough battle. I mean, like you said, Chris, this is going to be played. This game is going to be won in the trenches. Who has the advantage? It's tough to say. I mean, like I said, I think maybe from the Eagles O-line perspective, I think they have that advantage. But I think from the Chiefs O-line versus the Eagles D-line, I think it's more of a toss-up. But whichever team kind of has the better game in the trenches on both sides of the ball, I think is going to win this game.
When last week we talked about all week long about how the Eagles and the Chiefs have kind of been the top teams in the NFL all year long. The top team in the AFC, top team in the NFC, as far as, the Chiefs are expected to be here. The Eagles kind of have a chip on their shoulder, and Philadelphia has a chip on its shoulder in
24/7.
So yeah. How much of a difference does that make? Does that feel like the pressure is really all on Kansas City?
I would kind of push back on that. I think both teams really have a chip on their shoulder. I'm not sure a lot of people had the Chiefs being in this spot. If you remember, the Bills were the talk of the AFC, like having the most complete team and yada, yada, yada. And Patrick, and from the Chiefs side, they had traded Tyreek Hill, and they were having to depend on a lot of rookies, like at a lot of key spots. Like they have a lot of rookie starters and or kind of rookie key contributors. And so like a lot of questions about like, what is the Chiefs offense going to look like? like outside of Travis Kelce, what do the Chiefs really have? And then defensively having to depend on so many young guys, what is that going to look like? And I think in some games early, we saw them give up lots of yards and kind of struggle a little bit. So I think, from a historical perspective, it maybe looks like the Chiefs were kind of expected to be here. But I think based on what they went through this season, I think they feel like they have a chip on their shoulder as well. And then the whole Burrowhead talk with the AFC title game 2 weeks ago with everyone saying, Joe Burrow owns you guys, and the Cincinnati mayor saying that Burrow should take a paternity test to see if he's Mahomes' father. I mean, I think the Chiefs have just as much, if not more, ammo than the Eagles do. I mean, the Eagles certainly have their reasons, right? I mean, a lot of people didn't believe in Jalen Hurts being a franchise quarterback. There have been doubts about Nick Sirianni. So I think both sides really have a chip on their shoulder. And so I think it's going to make for a really interesting Super Bowl, but I'm not sure that one team maybe has more of a chip than the other, because I think based on kind of how the season's transpired for both teams and the off-season chatter with both teams, I think both teams are really, plenty motivated for Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Ben Arthur, FoxSports.com. Ben, we appreciate you taking some time with us as always. It is a pleasure and look forward to it. Who you got this weekend?
I got the Chiefs. As I was saying earlier, like I think every football reason is telling me to say Eagles. I think they're one of the most complete teams I think we've seen. I mean, their defense is a juggernaut. Jalen Hurts is, a franchise quarterback. Clearly, he has all the weapons in the world, a great O-line. But I don't know. I just don't see Patrick Mahomes losing in 2 Super Bowls in a row. I just don't see that happening. And I think regardless of how that ankle looks, I think he's going to figure out a way to pull Kansas City to a victory. So I'm going Chiefs.
There you have it. All right. Ben Arthur of FoxSports.com. Ben, thanks again. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. We're going to take our final break of the day. And when we come back, we will talk about those exotic prop bets. What do they look like? Well, we'll get to it right after this on Main Street Sports Day. By Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Stick around.
This is Chris Yow with Main Street Sports Today. Every show, Mo Patton and I welcome friends from all across the sports landscape, from high school coaches and reporters to national, college, and pro sports personalities. You never know who might stop by for a chat. AP Tennessee Sports Editor, 3-time Tennessee Sports Writer of the Year 2020 TSWA Hall of Famer. She covers the Titans, the Predators, the Grizzlies, college football, and hoops. Please make welcome Teresa Walker.
Former University of Tennessee, former Team USA Olympian, ex-Cy Young Award winner, R.A. Dickey. R.A., did I miss anything?
Man, that was sweet. Yeah, I need to listen to that before I go to bed every night. That was nice.
Has 5 sports Emmys. That's not bad for the other guy in Wham, Ryan McGee.
The other guy in Wham married the best looking girl, Bananarama. So the other guy in Wham had a pretty good life.
From preps to pros, we're taking on the sports topics you care about. Tune in across Main Street Media social platforms at 2 p.m. or on demand on your podcast distribution platform of choice.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow and Mo Patton here with you on this weekend preview edition of Main Street Sports Today, where we get ready to preview and talk about some of the weirdest and wildest possible bets you can make this weekend. We only have one game to pick, Mo, so we got to come up with something else, right? So let's talk about it. Chris Stapleton, Leapers Forks own Chris Stapleton, will be singing the Star Spangled Banner ahead of Super Bowl 57. The over and under that we're going to take in this one is 124 and a half seconds.
124 and a half seconds. That's 2 minutes and 4 seconds.
That's
right.
2 minutes and 4.5 seconds. So
I'm taking the under.
All right.
What are you taking?
In Super Bowl history, there have been 3 country stars to sing the national anthem. All of them have been over 2 minutes and 4 seconds. All of them.
But as you are fond of saying, Chris Stapleton transcends country.
He does. Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
The way the man sings, kind of bluesy, right? So you gotta think about that. He's gonna pull some runs out there.
Mm-hmm.
I also think he might play guitar. And if he plays guitar, it's definitely going over. So I'm taking the over. It is the heavy favorite at minus 182.
Okay.
I'm taking the over because I think he's going to end up playing guitar. That's what I think is going to happen, and that's going to push it over quite a bit.
Okay.
The coin toss. The favorite is Tails.
Well, because Tails never fails unless you are at the District 8-3A basketball tournament coaches meeting, because that's the scouting report I got from Joseph Wilson at Lawrence County earlier today. They had 2 coin tosses to break ties on the girls' side, and Tails did in fact fail. So.
That's no good.
Yeah.
Well, the team that has won the coin toss the last 8 Super Bowls has lost the Super Bowl.
Ooh. That's not good.
If you win the coin toss, you don't win the game. Now, I'm going Tails, but that's just me.
I think I'm going heads.
Rihanna. We learned that we've been saying her name wrong this whole time last week. So
sort of like Vescovy and
Garantano.
Yeah.
There is a prop bet out there on whether or not Rihanna will bear skin.
Well, will Justin Timberlake be there?
That was my first question. Is I don't know. Are we singing "Rock Your Body"? But the one we're going to go with is over or under 8.5 songs.
Ooh, I'm going under.
Yeah, the over is the heavy favorite, but I'm going under too.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Now, I mean,
9 songs is a lot.
At 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Did you see the thread that I posted or retweeted on MS_sports today from sports business person Joe? Oh gosh, what is his last name?
To answer your question, no.
Okay, well, this is probably the greatest thread in the history of Super Bowl halftime show threads. And let's see here, Joe Pompliano, who is he's a sports business writer. The artists don't get paid for this.
No,
they get a $10 to $20 million production budget,
but they don't get paid.
And
they can afford to donate their services to the NFL.
They spend millions of dollars of their own money to put this on.
Oh, so the production budget that they get isn't enough typically.
That's
then?
correct. But
they're getting to perform at the Super Bowl, and so that's worth it. So says the NFL.
So says the numbers. Justin Timberlake saw a 534% increase in music sales after Super Bowl 52. Travis Scott's performance fee doubled from $500,000 to $1 million after his Super Bowl performance, and Jennifer Lopez and Shakira gained 3 million followers after Super Bowl 54.
What was Prince's gain?
I don't know yet.
Uh-huh.
The Weeknd sold 1 million concert tickets a week after Super Bowl 55. The Stones set a record with $558 million in revenue for their tour after Super Bowl 40. Rihanna hasn't released an album since 2016 and doesn't have a tour schedule, but she'll probably make some crazy dough as well. Nothing in here about Prince, but it's worth it, to say the very least.
Interesting.
So,
okay. All right.
We continue.
Yes.
The Gatorade bath.
Red. Especially if it's the Chiefs.
Red is a plus 450. The favorite is yellow, which is, the lemon lime. And orange comes in at a 300, plus 300. Blue at plus 400. Blue, I don't see a lot of blue Gatorade. Clear or water at plus 750. And no Gatorade bath, 1,200.
Huh. Okay.
So you're going with red, huh?
I'm going red.
I think I'm going to go yellow. I know it's kind of a cop-out pick, but it's the most popular.
It is. It's a cop-out. But that's okay. I'll let you.
Who will the Super Bowl MVP thank first? Team, family, fans, or God? That's a good one.
God.
Who do you is that based on who you think is going to be the MVP? That's
Yeah.
what I was thinking too. I was like, who's going to be the MVP of this?
Right.
Probably going to be God.
And I think if it's either of the quarterbacks,
I agree with you.
Hurts in particular.
And that's exactly what I think. All right, now it's time. Who's going to win the game?
Ben Arthur picked the Chiefs, and that's good enough for me. Never mind that I've ridden with the Chiefs throughout the postseason. I just feel like you said, even an injured Patrick Mahomes, the way he played against Cincinnati on that ankle, I just think they find a way. And I don't think it will necessarily be a Eagles' fault, but just the fact that they've not been on that stage, I think at some point shows up.
I picked this matchup. I picked the two Super Bowl teams. I picked the Chiefs to win it. Of course, I thought Patrick Mahomes was going to be
100%.
100%. Teresa Walker went with the Eagles and almost flipped me, but I'm going to stick with my original pick, and I'm going with the Chiefs.
Well, Teresa is a very, very astute individual, but I think you're making the right call.
And that's going to do it for the show. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll be back Monday at 2 o'clock on Main Street Sports Today. Mo?
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.